Hello friends and welcome to today's lecture. Today's lecture is the third lecture in the Python tutorial series, and in this lecture we are going to talk about data types in Python. So let's get started. So first of all, let's understand why do we need data types. So in every programming language, data types are a very important concept, and they are a way to store variables in your programming language. So whenever you have to store certain values, those values can be numeric values or string values, characters, dictionaries, whatever. So whenever you have to store those kind of values, you need a representation in the programming language to store those values, or a type in programming language to store those values. And data types are those types which provide those category or classifications in which you can store the values. So whenever you have to store a value in a programming language, you need to know what is the data type of the value, and you need to assign that data type to that variable. We will see examples of this as well, which will make this concept more clear. So now we will talk about the different data types which are available in Python. The first data type which we are going to talk about is a numeric data type. So whenever you want to store any number in Python, Python provides different numeric data types. The first numeric data type is integer data type. So integer data type is a data type which can store absolute numeric values. Absolute values are the values which does not have any decimal point representation. So if you have to store absolute values, Python can store those values in an integer data type. If you have values which do have decimal points, then Python provides a different data type for it, which is called float. And if you're doing complex scientific calculations and your values are really huge complex numbers like this one, then it also provides a complex data type which can be used to store those complex numbers and huge numbers. Let's understand this with the help of an example. So let me just close this and start again. So you go to your command prompt and you just type Python, and if Python is already installed, you will come here. If you don't know how to install Python, please look out for the previous lecture in which I have explained how to install Python. So once Python is installed, then I can simply say this, x equal to 3, and then if I print x, I get 3. So you see, I haven't specified any keyword like int or something which is required in other programming language, but Python is so smart that you don't need to even specify the type of the data type, and the moment you assign a value to the variable, Python will automatically understand what is the type. I think this is the smartest a programming language can get, where you don't even need to specify the type, and the programming language will automatically figure out whether this is a integer or a float or a complex. To validate my claim, let's see what type Python has assigned to this particular variable, and for that you just can say type x, and you can see it says class int. It means Python has automatically assigned this x as int. Similarly, if I say y equal to 4.5, I'm now creating a float variable. I print y, I get 4.5, and if I say type of y, I get class float. So now you can see it's very easy to declare numeric variables in Python. Let's move forward and talk about strings. So strings are nothing but a sequence of characters which is stored in a zero-based index representation. If you have worked on any other programming language, you will know that most of the programming languages store these indexes or start these indexes from 0, and it's the same in Python as well. The indexes start from 0, so whenever you store a string, it stores that string as a sequence, and the sequence starts as 0. Let's see some examples. Let's say s equals hello. If I print s, I get the string. So you can see I've just set a variable name and assign a value, and Python automatically knew that this is a string data type. It says str, which means string. The next thing which we can see is that we can also access a certain character at a particular position. For example, if I say s of 0, it returns me h, because like I said, the indexes start from 0 and it's all a sequence of indexes. So s of 0 is h, s of 1 is e, s of 2 is l, s of 3 is l, and s of 4 is o. If I try to access s of 5, I will get an error saying a string index is out of range, because s does not have any character at 6th position, which is the 5th index. You can also do concatenations. So if I just say s plus world, it will concatenate s with world and it will give me hello world. I can also repeat the same value by using the multiplication symbol. So if I just say s into 4, it will say hello, 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 hello. So same string is repeated 4 times. So similarly, you can do a lot of fancy operations using string variables. The next thing is list data types. So list data types are the data types which you can think of as arrays, with the difference that in generally in arrays are homogeneous data types, which means that an array once declared as an integer array can only store integers and nothing else. But in Python, this list is heterogeneous. It can store different variables as well. You can see in this example, the first variable is integer, second variable is float, and the third variable is string, and list is still able to store all of these variables. So let's understand this with the help of an example. So if I create a list, and the list always starts with square brackets. Remember that lists always start with square brackets. If I give an integer, a float, and a string, this creates my list. If I print my list, you can see the list is printed. And if I have to access a particular element from the list, I can just say L of 1, and this gives me the value 3.14. So it's very simple. You just declare your list with a square bracket, and then you access the elements of the string list using an index. An index is again 0 based, similar to strings. You can also create 2D lists here or nested lists here. So that's also very simple. So if I just say nested list, I write a square bracket, and I write another square bracket. I say 1, 2, 3, and another square bracket 4, 5, 6. So I've created a nested list here, which has two inner lists. First list is 1, 2, 3, and second list is 4, 5, 6. And if I print an list, I get the whole 2D or nested list. I can also access a particular element from the list. This will give me 4, 5, 6. So like I said, you can create a 2D list, you can create a 1D list as well, and you can access different values based on the index. The next thing is about dictionaries. So dictionaries are unordered mappings, which means that if you have a situation where you have to store a key and a value in Python, that's where you will use dictionaries. And dictionaries always start with curly braces. Again, remember that dictionaries start with curly braces. So if I have to create a dictionary, I can just simply say here, so you start with curly braces, you provide a key, let's say color, and its value separated by colon, red. That's your one entry. Now you can create the second entry, let's say type, and I can give any random value, let's say rainbow, and I can create one more key, day, and give it a value 1, some random values. So this creates a dictionary for me. If I print the dictionary, you can see key, value, and key, value. Now you can access the values from the keys. So if I say D of color, So this should give me the value which corresponds to the key named color. So you can see it is able to fetch the value red. Similarly, you can see D of rainbow or D of day, and it will fetch the corresponding value of it. That's the whole concept of dictionaries. It's very similar to hash maps if you have worked in other programming languages. The next data type is tuples. Now tuples are pretty similar to how lists work, but the only difference is that tuples have immutable entries, which means that once you have wrote tuple values, those values cannot be changed. Though you can change the tuple size. For example, in this case, the initial values of the initial size of this tuple is 3, and if you decide to add more values to the tuple, that is possible, but you cannot change apple to apple 1 or banana to banana 1 or cherry to cherry 1. That will not be allowed. So individual values are immutable. The size is mutable. That's the whole property of tuples. And tuples, whenever you have to declare those, they start with simple brackets. So now you can see lists start with square brackets, dictionaries start with curly braces, and tuples start with simple brackets. And that's all the differences when you write these three different data structures. Python will automatically understand if it's a tuple or if it's a dictionary or if it's a list based on the type of bracket you use. So let's see an example of tuples as well. So if I have to declare a tuple, I will start with simple brackets and I will give some values. Apple, banana, and cherry. So now my tuple is created. If I print the tuple, I can see the values here. And now if I have to just fetch a value from the tuple, I can say the same way, index way. So I just say T of 2, and it will give me the value of the element which is present at the second location, which means 0, 1, 2. So the 2th location value is returned here, which is cherry. So that's how you can create tuples and use tuples, and obviously you cannot overwrite tuples values. So if I say T of 2 equal to, let's say, peer, if I try to overwrite the value, it will not allow me to overwrite. It will say tuple object does not support item assignment. So you cannot mutate the individual values, though you can add new values to the tuples, and you can access the values through indexes. That's about tuples. The next data type is Booleans. Booleans are probably the simplest data types. They just have two values. Either it can be true value or it can be false value. And the declaration is very simple. So simply you can say, let's say f equal to true. And that's pretty much it. If you print f, you'll get the value. The only thing to note about here that this t is capital here. Similarly, if I say z equal to false, and if I print z, the value is printed, and here also the f is capital. So remember that whenever we're talking about Python, the values of true or false always start with a capital letter. And you can use these or Python uses these Boolean variables or data types in different comparison operations as well, like shown in this example, that if you say print 10 greater than 9, so if this condition is true, it will automatically know that the result is Boolean value, and it will give you a Boolean value. In this case, 10 equal to 9 is false. In this case, 10 less than 9 is also false because 10 is greater than 9, so you get a false value. So this is how you can use Boolean variables and interpret Boolean variables in Python. So this is where we will stop the lecture of data types. Obviously, there are lots and lots of other data types which you can go and read on the Python's official documentation. But for this lecture, we will try to keep it concise. We will try to keep it to the point, and we will stop at this point, and we'll meet in next lecture. Thank you.